Nobody is getting wealthy on Social Security. Take a look at this. Lawmaker says that the November election may influence the program's future. Also, take a look at this. Social Security isn't keeping up with inflation. That could weaken Biden's support among seniors. So, really curious your thoughts on this. I'm going to go over those two articles as the election is coming up. Trump didn't do anything for his presidency on Social Security. Biden didn't do anything for his presidency for Social Security. Now, this election is neck and neck. What is going to happen? And I'm really curious, where is your support in terms of Social Security? Is it Trump or Biden? I'm going to go over all the details, let you know everything, give you some other important updates as well. Before I dive into the main content, if you appreciate these Social Security updates, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more Social Security updates. So Social Security isn't keeping up with inflation. That could weaken Biden's support among some seniors. Now, to be fair, I wouldn't say it's completely Biden's fault or completely Trump's fault or the president's fault. Really, there's actually dozens of Social Security bills in Congress, and not one bill has been voted on in a very long time, or any change or any reform to Social Security. So when it comes to the president's fault, I think the president could put a little more pressure on Congress to get something done for Social Security, but it really lies in Congress's hands to actually just have a vote. The president can't do that. It's really up to Congress. But not long ago, senior citizens got the two biggest annual increases in their monthly Social Security checks that most have ever seen. But for many of them, the adjustments still weren't enough to cope with the runaway inflation earlier this decade and continued high prices for food, housing, utilities, and other necessities. Does that sound familiar? Even though there were COLA increases, it wasn't enough to pay for your basic living needs. I think almost every Social Security recipient and every senior could relate to that. So big thing here, many depend heavily on Social Security. Some 42% of elderly women and 37% of elderly men rely on monthly payments for at least half their income, according to the Social Security Administration. So why isn't the president or Congress doing more about it? Well, take a look at this. Nobody's getting wealthy on Social Security, lawmaker says. The November election may influence the program's future. As President Biden and former President Trump have big plans for Social Security, at least they say, no action has been taken. As Democrats and Republicans vie for power in November, experts have said Social Security is on the ballot. So really curious, your thoughts. When it comes to Social Security, is that a deciding factor for which president you plan on voting for, or does that not really make or break the president for you? Really curious, who has the better Social Security plan? Excuse me, at this point, we don't really see much action from any president. The only time President Biden talks about Social Security is blaming the Republicans for cutting it. The only time former President Trump talks about Social Security is supposedly cutting the administration's budget, not the recipients. So just to clear that up. Voters who show up at the polls this November may not just be choosing Republicans, Democrats, and third-party ticketers, but also casting a vote for future Social Security. Social Security is expected to pay $1.5 trillion in benefits to an average of 68 million Americans per month in 2024. More than half of peak baby boomers, the largest cohort expected to turn 65 by 2030, are expected to rely primarily on Social Security for their income in retirement. Meanwhile, Social Security's trust funds are projected to run out in the next decade, which will prompt an across-the-board cut of at least 20% if no changes happen sooner. As Congress weighs that dilemma, they will also decide Social Security's future role in Americans' lives. Democrat lawmakers like Representative John Larson, who we've heard from a lot, say that today's benefits are not enough, saying nobody is getting wealthy on Social Security. And saying this, it is the very sustenance that 40% of all Americans need just to get by, and it hasn't been adjusted for more than 50 years. That is just such a crazy thing, how it hasn't been adjusted. No bills have been passed. No bills have been voted on. So why hasn't Congress voted? That is the big question, and even Representative John Larson keeps asking that question as well. In 1983, when the last major Social Security reform were enacted, they were no benefit enhancements, Larson argued. Among the changes put in place at the time was a gradual increase in the retirement age, taxes on benefit income, and reduced benefits for public employees with pensions. For years, Larson has championed a bill of the Social Security 2100 Act, which increases benefits for all beneficiaries by lifting payroll tax for taxpayers over $400,000. Today, annual earnings of up to $168,000 are subject to a 6.2% payroll tax. Now, we haven't really seen anything changes, and he asked the question, why hasn't Congress voted? That is the question. Basically, it's not really saying here, but that is the big question. Why hasn't Congress made any changes to Social Security since 1983? I don't think anyone knows the answer to that one, but retirement age may be pushed higher. That may be one of the fewer bills, at least in terms of the GOP. If they could gain control of Congress, that may be what happens from 65 to 67. Democrats have called out the more than $1.5 trillion in cuts to Social Security that Republicans' proposal may entail by raising the retirement age for everyone 59 and younger. Democrats estimate that 257 million people would have to work longer. People in the U.S. under the age of 59 who stand to have benefit cuts. So we could see here which states, basically, it's kind of the same here, percentage by state versus number of individuals. So Florida having the most, and then looks like Texas having the high. Texas and California having the highest percentage, including New York. So a path to bipartisan compromise is uncertain, with the Democrats mainly pushing out most of these Social Security proposals and bills. The GOP does have a handful, but it seems like Democrats have over a dozen. Maybe the Republicans have maybe 2 or 3. And there might be 2 or so that are bipartisan. It all depends on whether the leaders of Congress decide to have a vote. That's really the only thing that's happening. Now, the reason why, this is my opinion, that I think Congress is not having a vote on Social Security is because a lot of politicians may be pushing a certain narrative for Social Security, but when it comes time to vote, and their constituents see that their representatives are not for Social Security change or expansion, that may kill their political career. That's one of my theories of why there hasn't been any vote on Social Security. So what's said here is if you expand Social Security benefits and you pay for it by requiring the uber wealthy to pay their fair share, you will receive widespread praise and the gratitude of the nation. I think most people would agree with that. But you have to remember, a lot of politicians, both Democrats and Republicans, are being paid by the uber wealthy to not pass these type of bills, because if the wealthy has to pay these type of bills and pay more in taxes, then the politicians will probably lose their job and not gain support from the wealthy. So that's kind of one of my theories, which isn't really spoken about by politicians because their livelihood is based on campaign donations from the wealthy. So if the wealthy get tax cuts, then they get more money towards the politicians. Kind of a messed up system, but that's the system that we have in place. And that is why Social Security has been lagging for so long. So unfortunately, that is all the news that I have for you today. To hopefully cheer you up a bit, here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Oh, sorry guys, I see that. Can I tell you something? What I want to do is go to the moon. I need to go to the moon. Never mind. What do you want? Tell me in the comments below and see what you want. If you want to do something, then accomplish it. Do what you want, because that after you get too old, to not do what you want. Oh, bye. The moon. Bye.
Double payments for the month of May. If you want to see who is getting those double checks, you're going to want to click this video over here as I go over all the details, as well as let you know what an economist is saying about Social Security's future. Not going to want to miss that, so click that video now and I'll see you in that video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.